Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. Enterprise AI isn't just a tool, it's the heartbeat of smart organizations like yours, helping to reinvent work to deliver higher growth, more customers, and better experiences. Join us as we discover how AI-powered work orchestration and automation is making things better for everyone: customers, employees, shareholders, and most importantly, you. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now podcast. I'm Michael Marchuk.
And I'm Brad Hairston.
And this is our AI and automation news pulse check for starting 2025. I hope you had a great holiday season and we are ready to get into it. So, Brad, we got 4 articles today and all of them are really good. Well, the last one is a bonus, as you know, but the other ones are really, really interesting. So, first one's from TechCrunch, and the article is just titled, Microsoft and OpenAI have a financial definition of AGI, or the artificial general intelligence. And what I thought was interesting about this is that they define AGI by a dollar figure. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this one is very intriguing, and Happy New Year, by the way. So we did a article last year, I think it was November, where Altman had actually come out and said he thinks they're going to achieve AGI in 2025. So he's pretty bullish about what they're doing with their new set of models, the O1, I think they call it a reasoning model. And so he really thinks they're going to get there. But this new threshold, or this redefined threshold that they have in their agreement with Microsoft, completely changes the game, because this says that AGI is only AGI if it's a system that can generate $100 billion in profits. Now, I researched this because I was curious, how many companies have ever achieved $100 billion in profits? And from what I can tell, and I hope my research is accurate, only 2 companies in the history of the world have ever achieved that. One is Saudi Aramco in 2022. And then in the same year, Apple got right up to there. They were like 99.8 billion. So we'll round up and say 100 billion. So only 2 companies have achieved it in history. And now this agreement says, hey, our relationship and our agreement, around AGI is going to hinge on that number. That's a big hill to climb. And, OpenAI is really trying to be more competitive with Microsoft and vice versa. So they kind of want to be released from their agreement that started their relationship. In fact, on the Microsoft side, we know that they've started using other models. The article mentions Anthropic. They have some new relationship with them. We know that they've also done they purchased the Inflection Pi model, which they're now using in Copilot. So both sides seem very interested in separating and competing. But I don't know if they're going to hold to this agreement or not. But if they do, it could be years. In fact, the article also says that OpenAI in 2024 suffered a $5 billion loss, and no profitability projected anytime soon. So just to get profitable is going to be a big deal for OpenAI. Getting to 100 billion, I don't think that's going to happen in our lifetime.
Well,
if they really achieve AGI, perhaps they can get there quickly, but
what do you think about them, though, just the concept of defining intelligence by dollars?
Yeah, it seems like oil and water. I really don't see why.
Was that a reference to the 2 companies that you mentioned earlier that made that 100 billion in oil and water?
Oil and apples, yeah. I just think it's a fascinating. Someone came up with that. Maybe they thought that it was achievable and realistic, and OpenAI thought, sure, we'll get there before too long. but no, I do think it's interesting. It takes the focus away from just how intelligent the
Right.
model will become and how self-aware and how autonomous. And it says, no, we're gonna connect it to a level of profitability that has only been seen twice in history. So yeah, it's a very steep ceiling. I don't know why they would agree to that.
I'm not sure either, but I guess you could start somewhere, right? And certainly they've gotten some press out of this because of the numbers they threw around. So
Mhm.
we'll
Yeah.
see how this one turns out. Let's go to our second article from Forbes, and this one is right up my alley in terms of the things I like to talk about. So I'll be interested to see how you discuss this part of it. This is from Forbes. The article is titled "Too Busy for the Future: Why Managers Can't Close the Skills Gap." This is an article that talks a little bit from a skills fitness report that BetterWorks had done at the end of 2024, and it weighs into some of their findings that they had. I thought it was very, very interesting. And as you all know, we're going to leave links to these articles in the show notes so you can go research them yourself because there's no way that we could talk through all of the points that these articles make. But Brad, give us your highlights on this one.
Yeah, this is a really good piece. It's written by a former longtime Intel employee who was focused on workforce development. That's her passion, that's her area of expertise. And the point of the whole article is, I think we all agree skills are the new currency of work. But there's a disconnect between that, you know, that and how leaders are actually incenting and measuring their people, because skill development has kind of fallen off the map in terms of being something that we measure employees by. I was taken back to my early in my career when I started. I worked for the consulting division of Arthur Anderson, the company that eventually became Accenture. And in my first 5, 6 years with that company, we would go to this training site 3 to 4 weeks out of the year. I mean, think about that. A whole month of our year was nothing but training, and we had to do it. It was not optional. But that was such a core part of the culture and the development program there at that company. And so we learned to do so many different things, and that became a part of why they were able to bill us out at a really nice rate and make a nice profit. So somehow we got away from that, and the article cites this, as you mentioned, a couple of surveys. One of them, 77% of executives agree that the organization should help workers stay employable, but only 5% believe they're investing enough in their employees to keep pace with change. So there's absolutely, people are not walking the talk, as they say. They agree that skills are needed. They agree that reskilling should be a major focus, but they're not getting there. And I also thought, Michael, about the most recent World Economic Forum report, when they surveyed CEOs from all these big companies globally, and they asked them, what are the biggest barriers to transforming your company? And the number one barrier was the availability of the right skills. So this is a global issue. It's impacting companies everywhere. And the gap is just going to get wider unless companies change their approach to reskilling and training and really make it a big deal. And that probably means factoring it into how employees get measured. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
So one of the things that struck me, and this is something that we've had a bunch of people on our podcast over the past couple of years that have talked about this, and this, I think the line in his article really puts it into perspective. The quote is, "But maybe we're asking the wrong question. Is it fair or realistic to expect managers to succeed at both work oversight and people development?" I think this is one of the keys that we have. If you take any MBA program, it's all about efficiency and getting profits and profitability, et cetera. And when you don't have a specific skill set, let's go hire for that rather than let's develop our people ahead of that so that their skills will be not only ready for it, but also they have the background and the investment in the company to want to leverage that and help us improve as a whole. So
Right.
it's very difficult, I think, for us to make that kind of
Mhm.
balance when, as this article points out, we're all measured on the profitability. Heck, OpenAI and Microsoft, we just talked about it. It's all
Mhm.
about dollars, right? It's not about anything else. AGI is only about dollars, according to their definition.
Yeah.
Just like the profitability of a company, when you talk about it, you boil it right down to it. That's what
Mhm.
capitalism is. It's making a profit. Is that
Yeah.
it's very short sighted though, and I
Mhm.
think that's the challenge we have right now. Is that building a longer term viewpoint of where profitability is going to come from an organization,
Yeah.
rather than simply saying, "Hey, let's just go buy something." It's the easier, maybe more expensive, but easier way to go about it than to say, "Hey, let's develop internal talent programs to really drive that forward." Um, and there are companies out there that are doing that, but I think it's very difficult for
Sure.
those companies to balance both that drive for profitability
Mm.
and the drive for talent development, which
Yeah.
I honestly would drain profitability because you're investing in your people, but that's for future state profitability, not today's. So
Yeah.
anyway, great article. Again, you'll want to read this one for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, we go on to our third article from Reuters. This one's on Google, our favorite big guy to bounce around here. Google's biggest bet is AI for search, investment chief says. And we've talked about this before a couple times now, how Alphabet, also known as Google, as their parent company, is really all their profits, a lot of their profits come from this search engine and ad space. But now they're moving in towards this OpenAI fueled, hey, let's just use ChatGPT for search kind of concept. What are your thoughts on where this is going?
Yeah, the chief investment officer who's quoted in the article for Alphabet, she says, we need to meet people where they want to be met. So her contention is that's in search. That's where we spend most of our lives, is searching for content. And I do think the timing is interesting of this, given that OpenAI just came out with their with the integration of search within ChatGPT. Um, I and I love the example of the Google or the Alphabet CIO provides, which is you take a picture of something, and Google now will tell you, oh, that's from this store, and click here and you can buy it and get this coupon. And I mean, it is intriguing that we could have the ability to do multimodal search and let AI kind of guide us, instead of us having to figure out, where could that be from? Where can I find that shirt or that car or what have you? But I think it comes back to the issue that we talked about when OpenAI introduced search, and that is, how do you mix this type of search that is AI driven with advertisement driven search? Because that is the ultimate question. Is it truly going to be AI driven, or is there an influence of algorithms that are financed by product and retail companies? Because we've all accepted the advertisement driven search, but I think we will be more prone to go in the direction of AI driven if it gets away from the advertisement centric searching. Maybe they can do it and make it seamless, and we don't even know that they're still doing that. But that is where the money comes from. That's where Google has made their fortune. And ChatGPT is looking for profit, as we just discussed. They they need
Right.
some profitability. So I that's what I'm going to keep my eye on, is how are they going to either keep it insulated from that, or are they going to try to bring it in? And the other thing I'll just mention is the hallucinations. The article mentions that that is a piece they're going to have to mitigate. And if AI is going to be involved in every search, hallucinations will happen. And how are you going to mitigate the risk of that taking us somewhere that we shouldn't go? deceiving us in some way. We definitely don't want that. We want results that are, have a better experience, but they're accurate. They're not going to um, take advantage of a hallucination to take advantage of us in some way.
Well, this gets to the point where the hallucinations, though, in terms of an ad, would they be a manipulated hallucination? In other words,
Mhm.
we found 12 accurate results, but based on where we're getting money from, these top four are probably the best choices for you to look at,
Mhm.
right? And now you're talking about different than just surprising you with an ad or
Mhm.
providing you options for ads to manipulating you to say that these are the ones you're looking for rather than giving you all the other options that
Right.
Google currently does. Because while we all accept the fact that we have ads and we'll probably review them and we'll continue to use them, the idea that we are being manipulated probably won't set real well with people, and it would definitely cause some users to maybe fall off from that particular platform if they were feeling they were manipulated.
Yeah.
So, speaking of manipulation, we're going to go to a story from the Sun, which we always get all of our news from. I know, Brad, you're a definite
Sure.
subscriber on this. Um, we this one also involves Google, and the title of the article on this is "AI Am Afraid." So, if you look at it, say "I am afraid." Former Google boss warns of AI danger and says humans will not be able to police it as computers, quote, think for themselves. That doesn't sound like an article title that would rouse some bait click, would it? So, going into this one, Eric Schmidt, the ex CEO of Google, goes on to talk about some of the stuff that he's getting afraid of. Care to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I mean, there are some points in here I agree with. There's also at least one that I don't agree with. So Eric Schmidt, ex Google CEO, he makes the comment, when a computer system reaches the point where it can self improve, we need to seriously think about unplugging. Pretty funny comment. But I do think, I mean, they're getting rapidly more intelligent. We know agentic AI is on the rise. Um, so I do think, we're going to have to continue to consider the best, most effective ways to regulate AI and make sure it doesn't, go off the reservation and do things it's not intended to do. Um, he also makes the point that, yes, we need to be careful and regulate it, but we must beat China. So we got to continue to invest in it. So I agree with that too. I think we need to keep up the race and excel in it. We don't need to become so focused on regulating and controlling and mitigating that other countries surge ahead of us, and that has some downsides as well. And he says AI should be part of what we use to police AI. I do think that will be necessary because AI can think of new, gaps or new risk areas. It can come up with scenarios that we can't even consider. And the speed of it is just so rapid that I think our existing crypto, our security systems and risk mitigation systems we have, in some cases might fall short. They're not going to detect risk or detect fraud or things like that that are happening at a more rapid rate. So using AI to mitigate AI makes total sense to me. I think where I deviate from the article is it says some things about these systems, these bots, these models are going to become self-aware,
Right.
and if they do that, they're going to decide that serving humans is not worthwhile, and so they just
A plot
eliminate
we've
it.
heard before.
Yes, exactly. And that's a huge leap. I'm not really buying it. I mean, I completely agree. AI can be trained to be malicious, but getting there on their own and being self-aware and deciding, hey, these humans, we don't need them. Let's just get rid of them. I think there are going to be bad actors, human actors, who use AI in bad ways, and they need to be regulated. They need to be, punished for doing so. I really have a hard time believing that models are going to, on their own, determine that they want to do something against humankind. I just think that leap. It's real easy to make, and we use Hollywood to get us there. But models themselves are not benevolent or malevolent. They are a byproduct of the people that train them and the data that's fed into them. And if those people have bad intentions, then they can create AI that's going to do bad things. But I really think it stops short of AI that on its own determines that it's going to be evil and eliminate humankind. So it's, we've talked about this a lot. I can't get all the way to that point. So I think this is one of those shock articles that's intended to get attention. But it does make good points up to the point of talking about self-awareness.
Right. Well, I think there's a couple things, and I could maybe stretch my mind to talk about self-awareness from the perspective of, as you mentioned, say, bad actors or hacking folks who have ill intent, placing some kind of scoring mechanism that would incentivize any kind of model for providing the results that would be the output that those hackers or bad people would want.
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking of back in the olden days, there was code, and I'm going to go back ways. There was code that you would write, and it would load into DOS. Okay, back in the day, and this would hide in another part of the DOS memory block, allowing you to use hotkeys to do specific things. And it was very convenient to do that. That kind of code, or that type of action, was then misappropriated by people who thought, well, I can make it do bad things too. And that's how we got sort of this whole virus concept coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And those got more and more creative and more dangerous as the folks doing them leveraged them for profits, leveraged them to do social activities that they believed in and wanted the world to know about, et cetera. But they got to the point where these viruses had self-assembling code and polymorphic code that would evade even the antivirus software that was out there. So that type of thing, you give enough time and enough creativity to people who are leveraging these tools, and they may find a way to do this. That's why I think I can stretch my brain around it. I don't think it's going to happen soon, but like the antivirus technology and viruses themselves from our past, computer viruses I'm talking about,
Yeah.
these are things that I do see the same kind of potential for AI and the models to be tainted in a way that they could be leveraged like a virus.
Yep. I agree with that. I just think it's always going to require humans.
Oh, there's no purpose. It's the purpose part of it. It's going to come from people, whether they're good people or bad people.
Machines turning themselves into bad machines that have motivation or desires or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't get there anytime soon. So,
well, we don't have enough time to talk about the whole concept of, well, is it nature versus nurture? Why people go from good people, children, to bad people. Yeah. So we're not going to get into that, but I think the same thing might apply to our technology as we nurture it along as well. So with that, I wanted to close up this episode, our first one of 2025. And thank you, Brad, for joining us and giving us your insights here. As always, please feel free to take a look at the show notes so you can look at these articles for yourself and maybe gain some of your own insights. With that, I'll let you go, and we'll see you next time on the Pulse Check.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of enterprise AI, subscribe now. The future of work is here.